Welcome to the Liberating Joy in Learning podcast. I'm Brina Beckstrand, and today we're wrapping up our discussion of learning principles found in Mind Your Mindset, the science that shows success starts with your thinking, by Michael Hyatt and Megan Hyatt Miller. In the primary lens, working with resistance, we move to act using resistance to help us grow in a continuous process of transformation and recreation of ourselves. Each small effort we make at learning that ends with resistance is just one whole act that is part of a larger process. This helps open us up to more than we thought possible, more than what is possible when we just think about our learning. In the conclusion, Hyatt and Miller explain that we choose to act on the things we care about to pursue our goals and see them through. Earlier in the book, they expound on this by saying, we learn and grow as our assumptions are tested in the real world. Then we can gain a clearer picture of reality, learn to tell better stories, and achieve results for ourselves that we'd previously only dared to imagine. Finally, even the wrong step can sometimes help you make the next jump. So how has acting helped you understand and learn something better?
Right now I'm focusing on disc golf. I'm using it as an example of something that I'm doing, but it spills over into all aspects of my life at work and at home and at church. By acting on when I find something that I think would help me, I have to use it. I have to try it out. And by doing that, I've been able to see progress. And you can't just think of an idea and say, we wander shamelessly, we come up with ideas, but then we have to act. And it's okay if they fail. At work, the same thing. We talked previously about getting input from an outside source to look at it, to get a different outlook on something. And sometimes that input from somebody else helps, sometimes it doesn't. But if we don't try it out, we're never going to learn. We're not going to be able to see if there's the right way. Like it says here, even the wrong step can sometimes help you make the next jump. If you realize that what you did was wrong, okay, well, that's not the way I need to go. Let's go back this way and do this one, do the opposite, or take it a different tact. Right.
For me, it was service. When there's somebody that needs help, learning to help them, and I think it's talking to people in general.
Right.
So, I'm trying to help them understand something or whatever. At work, I have opportunities occasionally to call people or talk. They come in to visit me with me about EMS classes, and I have to talk on the phone. I have to actually, because I love writing, and writing I can fix it. With speaking, right. It's one and done, right? I have to just do that. So speaking to people has been a good way for me to practice what I preach, essentially.
Right.
So learning from others is challenging, but Hyatt and Miller help us understand the value of training with a mentor. In Chapter 9, they share, there are thoughts you cannot think, questions you cannot ask, and conclusions you cannot draw, because they simply wouldn't occur to you. To gain access to them, you need to collaborate with people whose most basic stories are different from your own. They describe what they call invisible obvious, which is the cultural blindness that prevents people in a given context from seeing what is obvious to outsiders. So when have you realized your own blindness to what would help you learn? We've talked about this a lot.
A lot. At work, it's a big thing for me. In my profession as a designer, sometimes you hit a block and you can't think of the way to get out of it, to create something that is meaningful. And so having somebody else with a different perspective always helps. Right. It really opens up the floodgates of design ideas by bringing in somebody else's perspective.
Right. So for me, an invisible obvious might be, so again, back to the disc golf, sorry.
Right.
Rob can see what I'm doing. I can't see what I'm doing. So he can be like, oh, you're swooping, or your hand is tilted down. So he can see things I can't see because I can't see myself.
Right.
And I've seen people at the disc golf courses recording themselves so they can do that. And I don't have to do that because I get Rob. So just other people seeing how we're doing things. There's been a lot of situations, but obviously this is the most recent one where somebody can see what I'm doing and what I could be doing.
Right.
Hyatt and Miller share that to solve the most urgent problems we face, we must find a way to leverage the thinking of others.
Right.
Also, the right coach, consultant, or counselor can diagnose flaws in your thinking quickly and thoroughly, just like what Rob's been doing, right? They can also improve your performance through expert critique. Finally, without feedback, growth slows or even stops altogether. I could not improve if Rob wasn't telling me how to improve.
Right.
So when have you benefited from insights from a mentor? Right. Okay. So that's what I wrote down.
Yeah. And you know what? The first boss I had was a great mentor. I learned a lot about myself, not only as a designer, but just as a person from him. But as you talk about learning from others, the thought came to my mind. I remember I can't remember if it was a freshman or a sophomore in the program at Utah State, and we had team projects we had to do. There's a development in Lehi, Utah, called Thanksgiving Point. It's been going for 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
And when I was in school, they had just opened up the first section, so we took a field trip down there and we walked. I mean, there's nothing there except for the museum and the little visitor center there. And so our project was just come up with this. I mean, it's like a couple hundred acres. We came with this development, and we had this presentation in before the whole department and this class, and our group was the first group to go, and there was like 3 of us a group, and they told me to go ahead and present it. Like I didn't want it. Nobody else wanted, and so I presented it. And the first person that gets up is the dean of the college, the head of the department, and he ripped us to shreds. I mean, it was great critique, but I mean, we had like an hour for like five groups to give their presentations. He took up the first 35, 40 minutes on our presentation, and then left. But afterwards, the whole class sitting down, and it's like, man, I wish he would have stayed to critique ours, because we gained so much insight from that. I mean, it was terrifying, and he was not kind. I mean, he pointed out things that were good, but I mean, again, we were brand new students. Like, you got to look at this, you got to look at this. But that was an eye-opening experience for me, that somebody else with more experience or a different perspective is always going to give.
Right, because he probably has real world experience,
exactly.
So he knows.
Yeah.
What's going to work, what's not going to work.
Yeah, and he didn't. And the other thing I appreciate is he didn't hold back. He's like, no, this doesn't work. But I mean, he was kind about it. He was like, he was brutally honest. And like, okay, And the thing about it is, I was still standing up there. My teammates were sitting in the back of the room, and I was up there at the board with this professor, just getting hammered about this. And like, okay, thank you. But it was a wonderful experience, and looking back on it.
Awesome.
The last principle that we will share from their book relates to liberating and healing in our learning. Healing in our learning can come as we recognize learning blockades. Deception, lack of control, shame, fear, jealousy, selfishness, and hate can become learning blockades that keep us from learning in healthy ways. Every negative emotion has a point where good desires are sidetracked from their beneficial intentions. Hyatt and Miller show us what can block our learning. They say, our questions can limit our imagination. We can think of these as closed questions. Furthermore, experiencing friction when pursuing a goal sometimes points to larger, deeper challenges we've missed or papered over with other stories. So when have closed questions or friction in seeking a goal caused you to rethink your learning?
Yeah, those are hard to admit.
They are.
Right?
This is where we got talking about, well, the ego is not on trial here. It's okay.
Some people are harder to love than others. I think that's what I have struggled with more recently. And I want to.
Right.
Right. And I recognize also that it's a gift. To me,
Right.
it's a divine gift to love others.
Right.
Because clearly he does it better than we do.
Right.
But I have to really ask myself new questions.
Right.
How can I think about this differently? And
Right.
I have a hard time putting my ego aside
Right.
for that.
Yeah,
but that's
it is
where I'm at with it.
Right. It's hard to do, and I think any question, well, it's not really a question. Any goal we pursue where we get to a point where we say, "Oh, I can't do it," that's where we're running into those blockades. The story is, I can't do it, and that's where we have to be brave enough. Well, that gets back to the whole other aspect of learning seasons and all this other kind of stuff. Is is this something that I want to pursue, that I value, or can I set it aside? Mm-hmm. And then get out of that downward spiral if I can't do it.
Right. And at some point, you're going to have to... You have to open yourself up to other people. You have to set the ego aside, and recognize I am not good at this in this area.
I talk about that. I just told about that experience when I was in school. It's still I realize and understand the importance of having other perspectives on things. It's still a hard thing for me.
Yeah,
it never gets
easy.
Yeah, it never gets easy. But if you understand the value, then you can put your ego to side. And I think the thing they talk about in the book about the ego's not on trial here, I think that's the hardest part as human beings, is to set our ego aside and to say, it's okay, I'm still a good person, but putting the ego aside is the hardest part. It's like, I don't want to do it because I'm prideful, and they may think less of me when they really don't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but let me just jump in. That's why learning from a mentor is last.
Yes.
When you have done the work of wondering, and claiming and owning and stretching and tuning and working, then you're ready for a mentor.
Right.
And it's easier to set the ego aside when you're confident with all of the steps that have come before this.
Right.
So if you're struggling with a mentor, maybe go back and look at some of the other primary lenses.
Right.
Make sure you know what you want to learn.
Right.
Make sure you understand all of these things beforehand. And that's why it's last.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can't get a mentor when you're not ready for it.
When you don't know what you want to learn, when you don't know what your weaknesses and strengths are. When you have all of that in place, training with a mentor is like air to breathe.
Yeah.
Because you're finally ready for it.
Yeah. Right. Hyatt and Miller also help us understand that disempowering language is an early warning sign of a false story. Trace these thoughts back to their source, interrogate them, then reimagine how you would state a more positive story. If your responses include language that is dismissive, negative, or defensive, ask yourself why. Don't be self-critical. Simply follow your thoughts and see where they lead. At the end of that thought train, you'll likely discover a story about yourself, the world, or other people that was created to insulate you from risk rather than advance your goals. So when have you stopped the train of disempowering language in order to help yourself grow?
Okay, all of that just restated what I just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Go back and look at those primary lenses. And if you're stuck, then do that.
Yeah, find out where the story has derailed you, and then you'll be able to move on from there.
Yeah, but I wrote down, I need this thing for plants, or I need this in parenting.
Right.
And a lot of times, if we're thinking that we need something external to help us grow, we're missing a step back in there.
Yep, exactly. Well, that wraps up our discussion of how Michael Hyatt and Megan Hyatt Miller's book, Mind Your Mindset, helps us understand learning better. And if you find other interesting learning thoughts in this book, we'd love to hear them. As always, if you have questions or comments, message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or on our Learning Liberated Facebook group with any questions or comments. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well. Bye!